I'm Brianna with Friends of Susie Dolls, and this is the bow that we're going to be making today. It's really cute. It's the perfect size for a hair bow, and you can glue it onto a headband or you can glue an alligator clip on the back. And here are some of the other ones that I've made for my daughter. They have clips on the back and they hold up really well, look great in her hair. So we're going to take a quick look at how to make this today.
You'll need 2 pieces of fabric for this bow, one rectangle measuring 14 by 3.5 and one rectangle measuring 4 by 1.5. You're going to fold the large rectangle over on itself so the pretty sides are together, and we're going to stitch around the 3 open sides, leaving a small opening in the middle of the long side. And here I'm using about a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and I'm just stitching around the 3 open sides, and here in a second you can see me leaving an opening in the middle of that long side. Now I would usually use a matching thread, but for today's purposes I'm using black thread so that you can see exactly where my stitches are. Now you can see me trimming off the thread where I left my opening. And here's what it looks like when it's finished. Now we'll take our smaller rectangle and fold it over with the wrong sides facing, so that the pretty sides are facing out. And we're just going to stitch down the long side using a 1/4 seam allowance. The next step is to pull out your tube turner and use your tube turner to turn the long rectangle right side out. Once I have it right side out, I'll use my wooden stick to poke out the corners and make them look nice and sharp. Now we'll come to the ironing board. And what's nice about this bow is that you don't even have to stitch the opening closed, because once we have it folded and tied up, you won't even notice the opening. So what I'm going to do here is push out the seam and iron it flat. The next part is to take our smaller rectangle and iron it so that the seam is on the back. You don't want to see the seam from the front. And you can see here that I use my little wooden stick to help me get that seam on the back while I iron it flat. Next we're going to take our long piece and we're going to fold over the right tab about 4.5 inches, and then we're going to iron it flat. And then you'll take your left tab and you'll do the same thing. Measure about 4.5 inches and iron it flat. Now I've got a tab in my right hand and a tab in my left hand. I'm going to take the tab in my right hand and turn it over. And then I just kind of flatten out the bow, and this is the shape that I'm looking for. Now, when I have this sort of X shape, I'm going to arrange it so that there's not a lot of space in between where I'm pointing here. You kind of want the top tab and bottom tab to just barely meet. You don't want them to have a lot of space or overlap too much. You just want them to just barely meet. And then once you have your X shape in a good position, you'll press it flat with the iron. Now that my bow is pressed, you can see the front and the back, and then I open it up there to show you what the middle looks like on the inside. Now we're going to take a pencil and draw a straight line down the center of the bow. And this line is going to show us where we should put our stitches for when we're going to cinch the bow up. So I'm using my tape measure as a straight edge to draw that line down the center of the bow. Then I'm going to thread my needle, and I'm going to thread both ends through the eye of the needle. This will create a loop so that for my first stitch, I don't have to tie a knot. I just thread it through the loop that was created.
For your first stitch, come through the back at the very top of that line that you drew. And here I'm threading the needle through that loop. And then we'll do 2 more stitches in the middle and then 1 stitch at the bottom. Here I'm doing the first middle stitch and the second stitch. So you're putting these stitches a couple of centimeters apart. They're not right next to each other. And this is what is going to create the really cute pleats. So we've got 1 more coming from the back down at the bottom. And now I'm going to use these stitches to cinch up the bow. Grab your thread at the bottom and cinch the bow up. And then I take my thread and I wrap it around the bow to hold in the cinch. Now I'll put a dot of hot glue on the back to hold the string in place, and then I'll go ahead and trim the string. Grab your small rectangle and place a dot of glue at the back of the bow where you'll secure the rectangle. Then we're going to wrap it around and secure it again on the back with another dot of hot glue. Trim off the excess and make sure that you can't see any of it poking out from the front of the bow. The final step is just to adjust how you want it to look and then press firmly. I like to press it just so that those cute pleats stay in place and so it looks really crisp and sharp. Nice work with your brand new bow. It looks so cute, and you can go ahead and glue a clip on the back or glue it to a headband. Nice work.